Thank you for joining me for this episode. Today, I'm joined by Tom Freyne from Scope Eye Care. You may know of them as Optase. We're going to be speaking about Scope's origin, its evolution, and future on the OI Show. Before we got started on the episode, I wanted to thank Tom and the whole Scope Eye Care team for their support of this particular podcast. I'm really grateful for the support that they are doing in the eye care community of bringing education as well as great products. If you haven't checked out their products, go to scopeeyecare.com or check them out at an upcoming eye care conference. We've had some great success with several of their products in our practice. One of my favorites is the vitamin A ointment that we have our patients use at night, and also their HA preservative-free eye drops. Check them out at scopeeyecare.com. And now back to the show. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of the OI Show. Today, as mentioned, we have Tom Freyne on with us, and Tom is with Scope. It's awesome to have you, buddy. We met not quite a year ago at a conference. And here we are, getting to hang out and chat again. So I'm pleased to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing brilliant, David. Thank you so much for having me. And I can't believe it took us that long to meet, but it was cool to finally meet and to be invited on this. Now is a real honor. So thank you for
I
having me.
know. Yeah, I know a bunch of people in your company in the US, but finally to get to meet the head honcho and the man that got it all going. So Tom has an interesting story in that he not only is heading up this company, but he started it. And that just is a crazy thing to be able to know the founder of a company that is as big as Scope is. And if you don't know what Scope is here in the United States, you may know their brand name of Optase, which is the product that we most know. And if you haven't heard of Optase yet, it's because they are relatively, in the grand scheme of things, new, but they're huge. Already, they're making a huge indent in so many eye care practices. We use several of their products, some really, really cool things. And there's also some newer products that they've acquired and are coming out with, which I want to touch on a little bit during the podcast. But before we do that, Tom, I love origin stories. Can you tell us a little bit of how this all got started? How you were sitting around one day and you're like, I wonder if, and then here we are today. Walk us through how you started the company, who you are, why you wanted to get into eyeballs and all that stuff.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I loved it. And I hope it is interesting. But to hear you saying that we're established in the US and that you use some of our products, it's just when I think back to when we were thinking about launching in the US, it's a nice moment. So hello, as you said, I'm Tom Freyne. We started Scope about 18 years ago. And where did that concept come from? Well, I'd worked in the eye care space for about 5 years before starting Scope. And my family have a really cool kind of heritage in the healthcare space. So my granddad was a pharmacist who started a local pharmacy here in Dublin in the 40s. And we used to hear great stories about this man. He was a real entrepreneur. I only met him twice. He died quite young, but he went over to Berlin just after World War II with bags of cash in a brown paper bag. And a couple of times he had to stay in a prison overnight because he was found with the cash. But he went over there to formulate some of his own products with manufacturers in Germany, brought them back to Ireland, sold them in Ireland and in the UK. And he really got the entrepreneurial spirit going for the family. He died early in 1979. My dad came in as a vet and started to take over the family pharmacy and do some of the same things with general medicine products as well. And I guess by the time Dad had a company called Pharma Global. By the time I was getting to college, I did business and I did an MBA then. I was really curious about this whole world of healthcare and what we could do. And so I got into the eye care space. I was working for Bosch and Lomb in Germany, lived over in Berlin for a while, and started to think about starting my own thing like granddad and dad had, and really started to research the UK market because obviously Ireland is a nice market, but a small market. And what I was really seeing, having learned so much in Bosch and Lamb, was that there was no hyaluronic acid products in the dry eye space, and there was no preservative-free multi-dose products in the dry eye space in the UK. And I did not have any big money behind me or anything like that, but I had a real passion for high quality products from granddad and from dad and from doing something innovative. And I guess from my time in working in big blue chip organizations, I worked for a company called Danone here in Ireland as well as a product manager on the marketing side. I had a real frustration as to trying to get innovative things going and moving forward. And so I thought there was an opportunity to start something that was a little bit different. But in those early days, I was a businessman. I didn't have the Howard Kettlesons of the world on my team at that stage. It was about going to find a product that was different and innovative from a company that would license us their technology. And through a sales job that I had in the UK, I met a middleman who essentially was trying to find a partner for the UK and Ireland for an incredible company called Ursapharm. And bear with me here, I'm getting to the stethoscope. But Ursapharm were a third generation family company in manufacturing of eye care products. They really liked my story. They really liked the heritage of Scope, and we decided to jump into bed together. And there was a great opportunity there for a long-term partnership. Very quickly, we signed the contract, and we became their exclusive partner, exclusive distributor in the UK and Ireland for their great high-low products, high-low
What
technology.
year was that, Tom?
That was in 2008. 2008.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of where you first were launching, 2008 was where you first had kind of a product under your name.
Exactly, exactly. Nothing before that. And you have to remember, I was 25 when I started Scope, so you're not talking about your stereotypical CEO here who steps in to lead a big organization. This is starting something very, very raw. We had nothing. We had a little bit of money to get us off the ground. And the next couple of years were exhilarating, thrilling, terrifying, scary, worrying, all of the different emotions that you can possibly imagine. But I used to leave here in the morning, leave Dublin, fly over to London, and Monday to Thursday, I would go out and meet customers, sell the products, try and get them off the ground. And on Friday, we'd come back and we'd run the company from our HQ, which was above Grandad's pharmacy, which is still being ran today, basically in a one-man office above the pharmacy. And slowly but surely, we always had this vision of creating an eye care company that, had great products in multiple conditions, but we wanted to start somewhere. So we had real focus and determination. And slowly but surely, we gathered momentum. We got formal relistings in the UK. That's how it works. And more people started to prescribe the Hilo brand and our products. And fast forward to like 2015, suddenly we were the market leader. And then started to think about investing in the future of the company and innovation and NPD and R&D and all those exciting things. But
So
that's
Tom, you said in 2015 you were then listed as the market leader. What does that mean? Like tell me what you mean by we were the market leader with one product, multiple products, with
yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm talking about IQVIA data to show that our product, Hilo Tier and Hilo Forte, were in fact for units and for revenue, the market leader in the UK market. So that was an incredible journey to go on from like literally having nothing, having five people working in the company to now being ahead of Alcon, Allergan, Bosch and Lamb with their big brands in the UK. And that was a
What
huge.
was it that stood these two products apart? Well, how are they different than those other products?
Yeah, so that was the thing, that when we were looking and researching the market, there was no HA at that time and there
Yep.
was PFMD. So the big differentiators here were we had the commode system,
Hmm.
our airless bottle you can use for 6 months from the time of opening, and then the quality of hyaluronic acid that was inside the bottle. So they
Yeah.
were the two standout features. And to go to surgeons in 2009 and tell them that they had HA in a bottle now for dry eyes was a big moment.
Hmm. So then at what time did you start going outside of UK, and when did you come to the United States?
Yeah, so we had a couple of partnerships in the US. So we were actually going to the US conferences since probably 2012. And I used to remember just coming home on the flights going, I really, really would like us to be in the US market at some point. I believe we could be a useful partner here to patients and to practices. And we put together, when we started getting going with our own brands and developing our own products, which I said was in 2015, that was the time that we could actually start thinking about launching in the US, because with the distribution relationship, we weren't going to be able to bring that to the US at the time. So we started formulating that research plan in about 2016, started going out to practices, talking to them, what would they like, what would be good from a dry eye company in the US, got some incredible feedback from great practices, and then started developing the right products to be able to bring them to the US. So we launched in the US in August 2019. I'll tell you a good story about Walgreens if you want to hear that. But we essentially got the sales team off the ground in September 2019, and then had to take them out of the field in March 2020, which was horrific timing. We stood by everybody, we didn't let anyone go, and we got ourselves calmed down, back going again. And I'm delighted to say that we still have some of those founding team members that started us in the US.
Yeah. How have things gone in the US? To expectation or bigger than expected, or where would you say things are at? Always you want to take over the market in a 3-month period, but you knew that
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen.
We knew it was going to be the long haul. And that's one of the really nice things about Scope, or certainly I feel about Scope, is that this is a real long-term ambition that we know nothing's going to happen too fast. And that's how I feel you build credibility. So to answer your question, I am absolutely delighted with where we are in the US right now. We're actually ahead of our original expectations. We have had all the challenges in the world. I could write you a book on all of those. It's like the amount of times we feel like we're flying and then we get punched in the face. But our products are widely loved now. We actively have about 5,000 ECP practices that we're working with. That is our model, is we work direct with practices. We support them with great additional services, not just the products. We have a phenomenal team of people that are calling on these practices all the time. And we're starting to gather traction in terms of market share and share of voice as well. IQVIA do a nice piece of work where they look at the brands that are most recommended by doctors, and it's a sample of like 500 ECPs from across the US, and our share is growing really, really nicely on that. So I'm really delighted with where we are, but where I get really excited is the long-term plans that we have for the US.
Yeah. So what have you kind of been doing to grow awareness and help more people, kind of come to know about the product? That you're not doing it maybe as I would see it as traditional, like go and dump a whole bunch of product in the pharmacy and then send out 3,000 samples to every optometrist, which is kind of the historical way of doing it. And I kind of see that method actually has less authenticity because, um, we don't want to throw away those free samples that come in. And so you're going to just like shove it off to people. And we do that grab bag approach, right? Here's 7 samples that were given to me. But I don't see your samples coming in that way. So, what are you doing to partner with these practices, and how are people coming to know about you?
I think what we learned right from the start of Scope was that long-term human to human relationships in every part of the market was going to be the fundamental to success of this company. So we don't have 100 salespeople across the US right now, but we're getting there. And we're now at a team of 40 in the US. And we have high quality people that we've hired that we feel really fit the unique Scope culture that we have, that work as business partners to as many practices as possible. So we look at practices to partner with, and we go to them with our overall value proposition of products and services, and we try and understand their needs, really listen to them, and try and support them in growing their practice. rather than shoving samples down their throats. And look, I'm not going to tell you we're brilliant and perfect at that, but
No.
we're getting better and better and better, and we've got more and more services to offer now, which I'm really, really proud of. We're really investing back for the growth of practices in the US, which is exciting.
One of the things that I, have to question you on is
Mm.
when I walk by your booth or I talk to somebody from your company, it seems that you've launched another 700 different products. It's obviously a joke, but it seems that every time I come by, there's
Yeah.
new things that are coming out. Like the development and the launch of a product is always a huge thing. How are you doing this at such a high speed and a high rate, in the United States, let alone around the world? Is this part of the market plan is like develop all these different products? And what, along with that, what would you say are the products that are, are the most successful and the ones that people are, tending to gravitate to most?
Okay, okay. So I guess the way to capture that is we had a lot of catching up to do with the US for what we had as a portfolio in the UK and Ireland. So already when we launched in the US, we knew we had a lot of things to get to the market over the
Mm,
over the first 5 years. But as well as that, we have an incredible innovation ecosystem at Scope where we're working in multiple regulatory classes. So, just it's quite complex. Like we work across OTC drugs, we work across cosmetics, we work across food supplements, and we work across medical devices. So it's a lot of different and we always wanted to provide a very sophisticated range of ocular surface disease treatments that, sit in masks, sit in lid wipes, sit in drops, and sit in other areas that we're working on right now. So we just wanted to catch Ireland, and we wanted to continue to innovate for practices in the ECP. And no one has ever said to us at this point, "Oh my God, guys, I can't handle." Where everyone is excited to hear what we have next. And I guess what we're trying to do with the services that we have is to help practices to support the sell through of some of these innovations that are coming through. Probably for us, the biggest area, the most exciting stuff is in advanced lubrication. So I think some of the tiers and people have a historical thing where we throw all of ocular lubricants and tiers into a bucket of being, you know, try them all and see which one you like the most. I really believe the science and the data that we're working on in our advanced lubricants, we've really got some incredible secret sauce in some of the stuff we're working on there. So that's probably the biggest area of our sales in the US. And it's probably the biggest area that we get feedback from practices of, oh my God, these products are really changing patients' lives.
mhm. So, if somebody has never used or prescribed a product from Scope, what is the process of doing it? Because they're not going to necessarily go to every single pharmacy and find it. So, if I have a patient in my practice, how am I partnering with you? Like, what does that look like? Bringing you into what I'm doing. Like, how do I go about that partnership?
Yeah, I mean, so if you hear about the products, it's reaching out to somebody. Hopefully, we've already been in touch. And then it's sitting down, having a meeting with maybe you to start with, and then the greater team to train and educate them on all of the products. We provide you with samples, we provide you with materials. And then in terms of how you would actually purchase the products, you can buy them directly from Scope, where we'll give you all the tools and the training on how to do that. If you prefer to just recommend it, we'll give you these tear off pads where you can give to patients so they can go and get them in Amazon or the various retailers. So it depends on the practice and depends on what the practice wants. But if we have a practice that's serious about managing dry eye and growing their dry eye practice, we really believe we can help you grow that practice.
Yeah. Now, you have 5,000 practitioners or practices across, and what are they doing at a higher level? Is there some sort of ecosystem of some sort that they're able to partner with you on to sell product to patients? One of my biggest frustrations as a practitioner is I tend to not make a huge amount of margin on products that I'm selling in the office. And then the patients are having to always come back into the office to buy them, and they tend to not do that. That tends to be one of my biggest frustrations when I don't have a product at the pharmacy for them to buy. Have you encountered that, and what are you working on in that arena?
Yeah, there's two things. One, I think because of the premium nature of the Optase brand, and the way we've set up the pricing structure, there is a lot of margin for the doctor on each of these items and for the practice. And for the first sale, if they're interested in selling it through the practice, I think that's a really nice offering. But then to the acquisitions point that you made recently, we've recently acquired a company called MedBot, which we've transformed it now into Optase Connect. And
Hmm.
that's because for the last 5 years, we've been going around listening to practices and they've been saying, I'm so frustrated that I'm creating the demand of this new patient for you. And then people go off to Amazon or they go off to Walgreens, and those big giants are making all the profit of the patient that I've diagnosed and I've created. So, what we've done with a very clever system is created a platform where you can keep the patient for the lifetime value of that patient for their dry eye prescriptions, medications. So it's a very easy to use e-commerce system where, they buy the first one in the practice, and then you can send them a subscription or you can send them the link to this system where they can continue to buy the products from there. And we've built the margins that rather than just getting a token gesture, that you're actually getting a sizable piece of the margin on the recurring sales as well as the first one.
Yeah. Where do you think that will go? What do you envision or hope that Optase Connect, is that what you called it,
Yeah.
is going to evolve into? Knowing you as somebody who sees something bigger and grander, what is that going to look like three,
Yeah.
5, 10 years from now?
I think we can see it with other systems and contact lenses. I think it could be the future. The way we've coined it with some practices, the Amazon for doctors. And I think if we can get it right, I think practices could really, really, really turn on to a system like this. And it could help with
Hmm.
profitability in a major way. Because if you think of all the building up recurring revenue and subscriptions of your dry eye patients, that could be a part of the practice. So, and then outside of dry eye, I can see practices doing more and more in this world as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, with the frustrations that, like, we've done an awful lot of consumer research. And when you talk to patients about how frustrated and pulling their hair out when they go to Walgreens and they can't find the right product and they're totally confused, for ECPs to grab this and to own this, I think it could be huge.
Yeah. That's interesting that you're making acquisitions like that. Are there any other recent acquisitions that you're delving into new spaces? What else have you been doing? You're obviously not launching a product into the United States and then leaving it at that. You seem to be growing pretty heavily. What else
Yeah.
have you done?
Well, so just to quickly explain our whole innovation ecosystem. So we have Howard
Yeah.
Kettleson, our head of ideation, guy from Alcon, just incredible experience. We can talk all day about him. Then we have an R&D department. Neve Holt leads that. And then we have BD and acquisition. So we've three ways that the company is thinking about our innovation pipeline for the future. And as you said, we're not slowing up in terms of what we're bringing to the market. And so really in the last year we've gone a bit crazy. I've never done an acquisition before in my life before 12 months ago. And we've gone and bought three companies in the last 12 months. And we have huge aspirations of where we want to get to in the long-term future. Ways that we're going to have to fuel that is through acquisition. So we're starting to get going with the idea of acquisitions, and I think there's going to be a lot more that'll happen there over the next couple of years. So we've bought Itemans, which is an eye care supplement brand. They have an AMD product and a dry eye product. That is just the start for us. We want to build out a whole eye care supplement brand. And then we also bought MX2 from Tim Tren, the Mybography device that again comes with really cool digital capabilities in the cloud. And we believe we can start to connect all of these softwares in the background to go to your point that we're offering this really useful platform to practices that can help them do so much more. So that's getting us into diagnosis where we can now diagnose, then treat with the right products, and then help with the recurring revenue on a platform like Optase Connect. So that's in our world, that's the nice vision of where we see the whole dry eye space going. And we've started to bring all of that together now.
Yeah. What do you think the next 24 months is going to look like? What are you hoping for, and what do you foresee happening?
So we have an awful lot of stuff happening, but probably two of the most exciting things, and I won't say too much about the technologies, but is bringing in Howard Kettleson, and we have two very specific projects that are going to be his first two to hit the market, and they will probably hit the market in late 27, and they're going to be huge innovation, firstly in eye drops and secondly in eye ointments. And okay, as a generic term, that doesn't sound that exciting, but what he has done with the formulations, with the technology, with the IP that we're going to have there for those two formulations and presentations is going to be very, very big for a mid-sized company like Scope. It's going to be the next step in our phase. So we have a lot of people now focused on those two projects and making sure we get them to the market on the timeline that we want to.
Yeah. So for those people out there who don't know the name Howard Kettleson, he's been really instrumental in the launch of a lot of the Alcon contact lens solutions, Sustain and the products around those, which have been legacy great products. So if you're not aware of the name Howard Kettleson, he's a blockbuster in the world of formulation and chemistry. I know both of us have talked to Howard and sat in a room with him and had him explain chemical formulas on his whiteboard. And it tends to be like, wow, that's really amazing. And let's do what you just said, because I have no idea what you're talking about, but he can bring science down to a level we're somewhat able to understand. And just I remember him explaining to me Sustain way back in the day. And it was like, wow, okay, yeah, I see how why you did what you did. That's really cool to see how, it works with the patient. So obviously a big win for you getting to work with Howard. I'm sure you feel that way every day.
They honestly, to get Howard into the company, every time I spend an hour with him, it's an hour of education, it's an hour of inspiration. I just feel energized for what we're hoping to achieve in the future. And it's very real as well. Sometimes it can be a bit up in the clouds and it doesn't translate what Howard is doing, not only for the innovation, but for some of our scientific studies that we're doing and our medical messaging for the teams and stuff. It's very real and translatable. And the amount of people like you that have come up to me and said, Howard pitched me on Sustain. And after that,
Uh-huh.
like, I was just like, okay, fine, I get it. I'm doing it. So I feel very lucky and very blessed to have him in the company. And he's also a great mentor to up and coming people. He's really all about trying to find the greatness in others and giving them their chance to shine. So yeah, I really do feel very lucky to have him here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we're interviewing leaders from companies across the eye care space, what would you say is something you've learned over the last couple of years that you think clinicians should know, or even as head of scope, that you think clinicians should know about the world? Something that you've learned. You got any thoughts on that?
It sounds like, I don't know if you listen to the podcast Coaching for Leaders, do you?
Yeah,
What's
that's a
something
good.
you changed your mind on in the life? You asked everybody
There
that
you
who
go.
the
Yep.
podcast. I think probably for me is like don't underestimate dry eye. Is I know in optometry maybe it's a little stronger than it is with MDs, but the value that you can bring to your practice for your patients, for your word of mouth referrals, for your revenue, for your profitability, for your team satisfaction. There's just so much can be done with dry eye. And what we tackle every day is okay, I get it. It's another dry eye drop, it's another lid cleanser, whatever. But they're not seeing it as, oh my God, this could be a key driver to my business. And I think we're getting there and we're convincing people, and there's more and more companies coming into the space. But to really stand back and take dry eye very, very seriously, because it can make a huge difference to your business overall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you as somebody who sees a lot of dry eye patients and, has seen the impact you can make on some people's lives who have really been in a lot of misery and just finding, that missing puzzle piece of what they're missing. And, I want to commend you on looking to find many, many more puzzle pieces that people can find and work in and fit through. And, the preservative-free marketplace is certainly one of those. And having HA as being a part of it, I think that's something that really has
Mm,
helped stand apart for
mhm,
what you guys have done. And, I commend you on that. I think that's a really, really awesome way. And, supporting education like this, being able to support a podcast to help teach people about more dry eye awareness and things that are out there. So I'm really glad that you're in the marketplace. And, if you got some big things in the works, saw where you were at with the Vision Source meeting, see you at all the big conferences, and then the team of people that you've been, pumping out. I remember when it was just one or two, maybe three people, and I met with them at a conference years ago. And to see the escalation and the growth that you've had just in those couple of years, and it wouldn't happen if you didn't have good products to keep people coming back for more. So, I want to commend you on that. Anything that we've left out that you think we should know about Scope or the future or what you're excited about?
I think probably just on the culture of Scope is like
Yeah.
there's lots of ways to have a successful company. We are now getting to be a decent sized company. We are quite successful. We're very excited about the future. But I believe the culture and the people at Scope is what makes us truly.
Mm,
We're we're a company that's really focused on our own people, even before our ECP partners in the world. And, the investment in developing people at Scope, the investment in recognition activities in Scope, the investment on a culture that's just a very solid, stable one, that long term vision I talked about. We don't have to worry about share prices. It's independently, privately owned. We can make quick decisions. I think that gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of point of difference to some of the big companies out there in the world. So, just I think it's worth noting the incredible people and team that we have at the company that have helped me build where we are today. And I think that's truly something that makes us different. And it's hopefully, if you were to ask any of the ECP community in the US, they would say that's something that makes us a little bit different. Is it's real
mhm.
people that you can connect with, that are always there, reliable, strong customer service. And they actually like working at this company because they feel like they're much more than just a number. They feel a part of something. They feel connected to a greater vision. And every company has a great vision. And I don't want to say anything bad about anyone, but I feel very proud of that at Scope. And there's a community of people here who are always behind each other and supporting each other. So that's the
Yeah.
only thing I'd like to say, Dave.
That's huge. You want to enjoy who you're working with and grow together. Very cool. Well, awesome. I appreciate you taking the time. We're on very different time zones, you being in Ireland and me being in Seattle. And so thank you for helping coordinate and getting this all scheduled. And thanks for being on the OI show. It was glad to have you, Tom. Appreciate it.
No, thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for all you do as well for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for joining us for this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned next time for more great episodes of the OI show.